ask, continued barriers to economic participation remain one of the major challenges in South Africa's economy, and a more defined picture of that is expected in the latest quarterly labour force survey. These numbers reflect the demographic of the country's employed, at what level of the workforce and in which seasons, as well as what pay. However, the number of unemployed youths has remained alarmingly high, while the overall national unemployment rate has dropped in 2 consecutive quarters to 32.7%. At the same time, some analysts attribute the 2022 third and fourth quarter numbers to seasonal job creation that was helped by the festive season in retail and services sectors contributing there. It's further highlighted that the first quarter of 2023 data is likely to disappoint due to the impact of rolling blackouts on businesses and the economy at large. For more on this, we are joined by Onye Nwameneri from the Africa Token Services. Thank you so much, Onye. I trust that I did not butcher your surname so early in the morning. We are talking about something quite important in the South African labour landscape. When we talk unemployment, we must also talk about the upskilling of individuals in this country to participate within the job space in this country. And it's a discussion that really has not had resolution for quite a number of years in this country. What's your view on that as we look ahead to the expected QLFS?
Thank you to Ms. Sanga, and really thank you for having me. We anticipate as Africa Token Services that the unemployment stats will not get better. As you know, 3.5 million young people are not in education, employment or training based on the last stats. We have close to 70% of unemployment of young people between the age of 18 to 35 years old. Why do we anticipate that we're going to see the unemployment stats get worse? We know that many organizations and not-for-profit organizations, small, medium enterprises have really struggled in the last quarter, especially because of the blackouts and the load shedding. So we're going to see more people on the streets, more people without jobs. But I believe that it's not doom and gloom. There is always hope.
It's quite encouraging to hear you say that it's not all doom and gloom, but we must also ask the question around where the will is lacking in South Africa around policy to cushion against the high unemployment that we have seen historically, particularly within the youth.
We think as Africa Token Services that there is political will. There's a lot the government is doing, to be honest. The government has rolled out the National Youth Service that has created close to 10,000 jobs last year through different departments of government, of which we participated. The government supports unemployment through the Youth Employment Service that also has reached 100,000 jobs since it started about 4 years ago. The government is involved in expanded public works programs that is looking at, again, low-income employment. So I don't believe that there is no political will in terms of government. I think that it's time that we as all South Africans turn around and say that the unemployment we have in the country is not for government to solve alone. The policies are there. The incentives are there, even from a tax perspective. I think we now need to bring all South Africans, public sector, private sector, small, medium enterprises to work together to say, how do we bring down this close to 70% unemployment down to hopefully more comfortable levels. And there's no such thing as a comfortable level when it comes to unemployment. But we need to work together, especially from a private sector. And if you ask us, the small, medium enterprise is where the jobs are. If we can support small businesses, and I know the president has said it over and over again, but it is true. If we can support small, medium enterprises to stay alive, to survive and to thrive, they are our biggest job creators.
And that's unfortunately the challenge, Onye, particularly for the SME sector. With load shedding, big corporates are saying they can't cope. They do not have the billions to throw into diesel powering generators. So how do we then, at a practical level and at a lived experience level, say to South Africa, there is an implementation plan that is likely to yield results in maybe 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, definitely. I want to believe that the problem of load shedding and blackouts have affected all of us. We can turn around and say It's a problem that government had to solve. And yes, it's a problem government has to solve because we're taxpayers and we all want government to use the taxes we have paid to the benefit of society, and one of it is electricity. However, we have seen that the problem has not gotten better. It has gotten worse and worse, with the winter being forecasted to go to all the way to stage 8. So we can turn around and say, government, you must solve it. We don't believe that this is now the time to look at government. This is the time to say the problem we have was created by people. People must solve it. And how can people solve it? By looking at stronger public-private partnerships that will enable generation of electricity from a solar, from a wind, and from a hydroelectricity perspective, in addition to the coal solution that we have. We can also do small steps or interventions. If you look at most big corporates, they have to spend on their enterprise development. They have to invest in enterprises using their enterprise development funding. They can use that enterprise development funding to support SMMEs so that SMMEs can survive. They can use their corporate social responsibility or investment funding to support non-governmental organizations to enable them to stay open even at this time. But more importantly, most of our corporates also have skills development budgets. They have millions of budgets where they want to spend on skills development at a time such as this. This is the time we say, where do we want to invest in skills that is going to enable us to build a new society where we are load shedding free? So why don't we invest our skills funding into training of solar installers, installers within the renewable energy, and especially in the operations and maintenance space. So it's easy for us all to turn around and say, it's a problem and it's a problem. But how do we become part of the solution as opposed to being part of the problem or complaining about the problem?
Thank you so much for your input. Onyi Nwaneri is the CEO at Africa Tikkun as we continue to build up towards the 11:30 mark, where Stats SA will be giving the latest quarterly labor force survey, in particular South Africa's unemployment rate. And